For the last 8 years, we've published over 2,000 videos on YouTube. And since we started posting daily content, we rarely miss a day. Monday through Sunday, every week, every month, every year. 4 million subscribers and 500 million views later, we're still doing it. Even when people from our team are away. Like myself, the Alux lady you know and love, I was gone for a couple of days on a much-needed vacation, but we were still religious about posting. Why? Because we know the value of inputs over outcome. Our goal and mission shifted over the years, but the input has always stayed the same. You see, if you want to get anything done, from buying your dream home to educating 1 billion people, there's one vital thing to remember. Always focus on the inputs, the activities that make the goal happen. The goal can be flexible. It can change, it can get bigger or smaller, it could even move to an entirely different direction, but the input must always stay the same. In this video, we're talking about why this mentality is so important and how you can apply it in your own life. Welcome to Alux. If you want to make money, what do you do? Well, we can tell you what not to do. You don't focus on the money. You focus on the things that make money. This may sound obvious to some and confusing to others, so let's dive a little deeper. Money isn't a problem, not when you have a lot of it, but when you have something that makes it. That's why 70% of lottery winners eventually go broke. They have the money, but they don't have the thing that makes it. They have the outcome without the input. It's an equation destined to fail. They end up spending all the money in a couple of years and now have no way to make it back. They're lacking the input to make that outcome. Now, statistically speaking, if someone were to give you $1 million right now, you're more likely to die broke than rich. Just think about how wild that is. You might be saying, how is that even possible? That's enough money to last a lifetime. And that may be true, but the lottery winners said the same thing, and look at them now. And look, if you think that's a bit of a stretch, then let's look at another scenario. Let's say tomorrow when you wake up, you have the body of a Greek god or goddess. How long do you think it would take for you to revert back to your initial form? Because you are currently lacking the discipline and maybe the genetics to get that kind of body. So we give you like 6 to 12 months. The outcome is never the problem. Winners and losers, they've got the same goals after all. It's not like anybody wakes up and wishes for a worse life. So does that mean that you should ignore goals altogether? Well, of course not, no. But you are using goal setting the wrong way. Most people set goals for themselves to make them feel better. I'll get rich in 5 years. I'll get fit next summer. I'll buy my dream house when I'm 30. When you say these things, it makes you feel special, like half the work is already done or something. You cannot wait for people to ask you what you're doing, so you can nonchalantly say, "Oh, I'm busy building my empire." But smart people know that's not how goals work. Instead, they have 2 purposes. 1, to remind you what you're working for, because everyone needs a little reminder sometimes. Not every day is special, not every hour productive. You can even have entire weeks where you feel like you're not going anywhere. That's why it's important to remember what you're actually working toward. You need that extra boost of motivation. And 2, to help you figure out your general direction. The second purpose of a goal is to give you an end point so you can go in reverse. People don't know where to start because they don't know where they want to end up. If you want to buy a house in cash by 30 and you're 27 now, that gives you 3 years to make whatever a house costs. you get a starting point. But that's all the goal does. It shows you a possibility. It helps you to imagine what your life could look like if you put in the work. It's more like daydreaming with a realistic chance of it happening. But you're smart and you know that having goals alone isn't going to get you anywhere. You know that you've got to put in the work. But this work can be so many things. So what does work actually mean? How can you know when you're working versus when you're just busy? Enter what we call inputs. Now, we define inputs as a special type of work that anyone can do in any given circumstance. And this work has a series of traits. 1. It's binary, meaning you either did it or you didn't. There is no in-between. You can't half-ass this. The reason you want this to have a starting point and an ending point is to avoid just being busy. It needs to be clear how it starts and how it ends. It's a complete process. Let's say you're a content creator and you want to build up your audience. You can't kinda push something. You either do it or you don't. If you don't have an ending point where the input is complete, it's easy to fall into the trap of pretending to do work or leaving things for tomorrow. 2. It's based on a clearly defined process. You need to design a protocol or a process on which the input is based. Our scripts, they follow a certain formula. Our thumbnails have a certain aesthetic, and so on. You have to figure out your way of doing things and stick to it. The reason why this is so important is because you don't want to reinvent the wheel every single day. It's just not scalable. If you have to wonder what you need to work on a given day, you are lacking a process. Let's take writing, for example. Writing is hard for a lot of people, including us, but we always follow the same process to make things easier. You start writing without stopping and then edit afterwards. Ideas will eventually start to connect. And this is the same for a lot of other industries. Everything has a process behind it. If you're stuck looking at an empty Google Doc, a Photoshop page, or a landing page, you name it, you are lacking process. So find it. 3. It has a clearly defined purpose, which means you're not just doing it for the sake of doing it. It has to have a clear function. It needs to be measured, analyzed, and put into perspective. If not, you again fall into the trap of just being busy. To know if your input has a purpose or not, ask yourself this and be brutally honest, okay? Is doing this getting you a bit closer to your goal? If the answer is anything other than yes, you need to rethink it. This forces you to stay away from things that feel good but ultimately don't provide value in the long run. Think about your work. There are probably parts of it that feel good. You enjoy doing them, but they might not be that important. It's kind of painful to toss them aside or delegate them. But if you want to get closer to your goals, you need to give up some control and focus on the work that benefits the most from your input. We know someone who owns a software company. He enjoys tinkering with little things and getting involved in every single project. But ultimately, that turned him into an employee in his own company rather than the CEO. And the company suffers. That's why choosing the right input is important. 4. It's schedule daily. The input happens every day religiously. There is no skipping it. It's the most important thing you must do. And this is the part where most people fail to stick with it. Eventually, doing the input every day gets repetitive and boring, especially since you won't be seeing any significant outcome anytime soon. But it's crucial to stick with it. Look, we barely got any views in the first 3 years on YouTube. But eventually, the outcome will happen. You just have to stick to it and trust the process. And on top of this, there's another side effect that makes inputs so powerful. When you focus on these kinds of activities, you build discipline and patience. Any person that possesses these two traits is essentially unstoppable. Once you develop this type of routine, your goals don't matter. You just set up to achieve whatever you want because the person you've now become is capable and ready. We hope you found some value in this video today, Aluxer, and as a thank you for sticking with us until the end, we've got a bonus for you. Homework. That's right, my friend. You might not be taking fancy before and after pictures of your first day, but you're going back to school. Take a piece of paper and write 3 inputs. Remember that inputs are actionable, physical things you can sit down and do. It's not thinking, debating, making notes or plans. This is actual work. For the rest of the year, you will do these 3 inputs daily. It doesn't matter if it rains, if you're tired, if you're not in the mood, if you haven't slept that well, if you're busy with other stuff. You will do these 3 inputs every day religiously to full completion. And we promise you, you will be a different person by the end of the year. If you're ready to take on this challenge, write inputs over outcome in the comments and we'll see who the true Aluxers are. Thanks for spending some of your valuable time with us today, Aluxer. We're so glad you did. If you enjoyed this one, please give us a like, hit that bell icon to never miss an upload, and hey, don't forget to subscribe.